The Gospel accounts. Although secular history attests to his ministry and influence, the details of Jesus' life were never preserved in an explicitly biographical form. What is known about the historical Jesus comes primarily from the Gospel accounts of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, four of Jesus' disciples. However, none of the accounts purports to be a biography of Jesus. As such, despite the fact that certain aspects of his life are covered in great detail and are usually set within specific historical context, the Gospel accounts, while clearly historic in nature, are principally documents of faith, the record of those events and teachings upon which Jesus' followers based their belief and hope. Therefore, the exact times and places of those events are not always recorded, and the actual sequence of events can be traced with only limited certainty. The Gospel accounts vary in the order in which the record of Jesus' ministry is presented. Apart from the fact that the Gospel accounts were never intended as a chronological records, the differences in sequential order may be attributed to several factors. First of all, each account was written by a different author, each having a unique perspective. Each writer also focused upon different events, either because he was writing primarily to a particular audience or because he wished to achieve a particular purpose in his writing. This is especially true, for example, of John's account. This also explains why some events are recorded by only one or perhaps two of the gospel writers, and why one account will include certain particulars not included in other accounts of the same event. Although a cursory reading of the different accounts can seem somewhat confusing, careful study discloses a striking harmony not expected of purely human documents which might have been written under the same diversity of time and circumstances. What follows is a combination of the four gospel accounts with an integration of the recorded events as nearly as possible in their proper chronological sequence. As previously indicated, any such attempt necessarily involves a degree of speculation because it is simply not revealed when certain events actually occurred. It is not even certain whether Jesus' entire ministry lasted for 2.5 years or for 3.5 years. Each position has its supporters. Much of the problem of dating depends upon which feast Jesus attended and upon references to certain seasons of the year. The harmony which follows assumes a 3.5-year ministry. While major areas of Jesus' ministry can be ascertained fairly easily, it is not always easy to know which events occurred within which major ministry. Sometimes it is also difficult to judge whether two very similar events actually occurred twice or whether there was only one such event which was recorded in a somewhat different context by a different writer. Examples of this problem are the cleansings of the temple and the laments over Jerusalem. Despite these difficulties, however, the record of Jesus' life and work can be seen very well from a careful study of the four accounts. Any individual perspective which might be lost in attempting to combine the four separate accounts is far outweighed, at least for the purpose of this presentation of the Bible, by a new sense of context and an added appreciation of the significance of each separate event within that context. In developing this particular harmony of the Gospels, the usual approach is to take the single account, which most completely records a particular event, and use it as a basis for the full text. To that account is added any significant additional aspects of the event which are recorded by any other writer as often as possible. A particular account is followed as long as practicable in order to maintain a given literary style and continuity of authorship. This approach becomes increasingly difficult to maintain at the end of Jesus' ministry, since all four accounts recorded most of the final events, often from different perspectives. The following scheme is used to alert the reader to the composition of the harmony. In the margin beside each paragraph is an indication of all accounts which record the events within that paragraph. Repetitive verses are indicated by light-face type. Where more than one account is used in a text, the text itself will indicate which account is being cited at the time. In addition, there are also marginal indications of the geographical location of particular occurrences and the dates of times of given events as best as can be determined. Attempts to assign exact times, dates, and locations often depend solely upon a generally assumed framework which cannot be verified with complete accuracy. However, having some frame of reference seems desirable as an aid to better understand the wonderful life and ministry of Jesus.